See you this morning. If you're visiting with us this morning and you haven't filled out one of those little visitor's cards, if you'll take a moment now and do that, we would greatly appreciate a record of your presence. Glad you're here. Hope you'll come back at every opportunity that you have to be with us. My comments are going to be a little shorter than usual because Brother John Everson will be doing our budget presentation here shortly. But this morning, I recognize the weather is cold. This is a picture of Mark Everson's driveway this morning. And I want to consider with you just a few brief comments as we begin a new year, that is. We are so blessed and so fortunate to be at a position where we can look forward with hope, with thankfulness, with energy. And so I want to give you just a few keys in the short time that I have this morning. I'm going to share 4 of these. These are nothing new. You've heard all of these before, but these are reminders. They say that the new year is a good time to take stock, looking forward with resolutions. So in that spirit, let me share these 4 keys with you this morning in the hope that they'll be helpful going forward in the new year. Number 1, I hope that all of us this year, 2025, will give priority to the church. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added to you, Jesus said in Matthew 6:33. There are 2 specific items here: the assemblies and Bible classes and church activities. I'm thinking of this passage from Hebrews chapter 10, verses 24 and 25, which is on the screen. This is from the English Standard Version. And let us consider how to stir up one another to love and good works, not neglecting to meet together, as is the habit of some, but encouraging one another. May I encourage you now to think of 2025. It's going to be over with before we know it. It's not going to be long. To plan to be present for every assembly of the Lord's church and every Bible class that you possibly can. We have 3 assemblies each week: Sunday morning, Sunday evening, Wednesday evening. And we also have Bible classes provided at 2 of those times, and some other Bible classes at other times. The church activities here are manifold, many. All you have to do is look at your bulletin, look at the church calendar, keep up with the activities that are being announced, and participate in as many as you can if you want to make 2025 a successful and a happy year spiritually. Number 2, spend more alone time with God. Your God hasn't gone anywhere. He's still right there. Where have you been? Is he saying, sure would be good to hear from you more? It would be good for you to spend more alone time with God. James said, draw nigh to God, and he will draw nigh to you. Cleanse your hands, ye sinners, and purify your hearts, ye double-minded. James chapter 4 and verse 8. There are 2 things here: prayer, which is our communication to God. We do it publicly, we do it privately. And then there's Bible study, which is God speaking to us, right, through his word. No relationship can flourish without regular and frequent, effective communication. If we want to be godly people, we need to be communicating with God. We need to be praying to him fervently. Pray without ceasing, Paul said. Our prayers should be meaningful and prayerful and well thought out. They should be regular, consistent. Our prayers should be urgent. We talked about this morning here in the adult class in the auditorium. We should reason with God. We should discuss with God. The prophet said, come now, let us reason together. Abraham debated with God. Job reasoned with, challenged God. Help me understand this. Let's consider 2025 the year that we really get into gear in praying to God. May I remind you that healthful congregations are praying congregations, and the same is true of individuals. Number 3, 2025 is the year to tell your friends about Jesus Christ. I don't just mean to say, hey, you've heard of Jesus Christ. Tell them about Jesus Christ. Let them see Jesus Christ in personal Bible studies and in the way that you live from day to day. They may be thinking, oh, that's what a Christian is. They may be impressed, either positively or negatively, with how you present Jesus Christ in your life. Jesus said it's a lot like putting a light up on the top of a hill and letting it shine to give light, or on a candlestick to all that are in the house. Even so, let your light shine before men, that they may see your good works and glorify your Father who is in heaven. Matthew chapter 5, verse 16. I have said this before. May you never get tired of me saying it. Growing congregations are actively involved in personal Bible studies. Many of them. How many personal Bible studies are going on right now at the Central Church of Christ? How many are you aware of? Brethren, the church here will grow proportionately to the extent with which we share the gospel. And that is a personal act. It's not done by blanket media, although I have nothing against that. But that's not the way we teach people. We teach people from the heart. We look them in the eyes. Jesus was concerned about their soul. And he set an example before them, and he taught them. Personal Bible studies, telling our friends about Jesus. Number 4, let's make 2025 the year that we really made a conscious effort to be kind, to be comforting to other people. When we leave the company of others, do they feel better or worse? When we assemble here with the saints and we have those precious moments out in the foyer or out in the parking lot or in the hall, or maybe here amid the pews, do people feel better for having contacted us? Are we kind? Do we ask them how they're feeling? How they're doing? And do we care what the answer is? Comforting. I want to share with you a plan that I have for 2025. Starting, Lord willing, in 2 weeks, we're going to have some sermons on Sunday morning under the general heading, Rescue the Perishing. Because I believe that we have a number of people, quote, in the congregation who are perishing. We don't see them, at least not like we should. And we also have some people who need encouragement. They need somebody to care. They need some comfort in their life. They are dealing with serious issues in their life. Spiritual issues, physical issues, mental, emotional issues. We need to be kind to these people, but we also need to offer comfort. So Lord willing, we'll explore that in a series of sermons and how to do that more effectively going forward. I guess the golden rule really sums all of that up when Jesus said, therefore, whatever you want men to do to you, do also to them. For this is the law and the prophets. Matthew chapter 7, verse 12 from the New King James Version. Be kind and comforting to others. Do you know that those little acts of kindness are the things that you will never regret. You're going to regret some things in life if you live long enough, but being kind is not one of them. And remember that when you look around this auditorium and when you look around your neighborhood or your job site, you're not just seeing physical beings, you're seeing souls. Souls who will live forever. Do we care? And are we being kind and comforting to them? I'm encouraged at the giving of this congregation. I'm looking forward to hearing Brother John talk to us now about the budget for 2025. But as he makes these comments, I want you to be thinking about the chart that's on the screen before you, because I want to get back up here and formally extend an invitation to you. Starting off the new year is a tremendous and excellent time to obey the gospel, to begin obeying the gospel. And we do want to provide to everyone here the opportunity so to do, Lord willing, before this assembly concludes. Brother John? Here's the flipper.
Yeah, great, thank you. Thank you, Bob. This morning you're going to learn a couple of things. Obviously, we're going to talk about our financial situation, things related to what's going on, where we were in 2024. Some of the things are taking place in 2025. And so obviously we're going to talk about some numbers. But you're also going to learn that you don't take a brand new grandfather and give him control of the audience, control of the microphone, and control of the PowerPoint. But Levi McClintock Lehue was born yesterday morning at 2:24 a.m. He weighed 9 pounds, 12 ounces. For those of you that aren't good at math, that's almost a 10-pound baby. He's already nearly 2 feet tall. So he is, some of you have already found out, he is at the moment, last night he was moved into the NIC unit, the neonatal intensive care, and they're just checking some things. They thought they would be home today. We'll see when that happens. In the meantime, Lisa and I are coming to the awareness why 60-year-olds should not have 2-year-olds. And it is, so if I nod off this morning, you're going to understand that the sleep schedule was a little wacky last night. Anyhow, the other thing you're going to learn this morning are these key messages. 2024 was another strong financial year for this congregation here in Martinsburg. Our financial foundation remains very strong. We're going to talk a little bit about that. And then change is beginning to happen, some visual change that you'll soon be able to see. We take a look at where we are. So I want to look back before we go forward. Oh, and let me also make knowledge, that's the reason why I set this up here. This morning there's going to be a handout, 3 pages of material. Be sure to check front and back because the first page does have some information on the back. It's our cash flow for 2024, income in against expenses back out. It is our current account balance, sort of a net worth statement, if I could call it that. And then the final item is the 2025 proposed budget, and it's laid out so that you can see what was spent in each category in 2024. There are a couple of new categories that have been added for 2025. Those are somewhat self-explanatory. But again, if you have some questions on some stuff, feel free to ask any of the elders or myself as the deacon for our financial affairs and things that go on. I'm always usually aware of everything that's taken place, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have. $483,000, some loose change, is what our total contributions for 2024 totaled. We had budgeted, requested, asked for, if I could say it that way, $400,400, which was $7,700 per week. You can see, as Bob mentioned actually last Sunday in his presentation, we were $83,000 beyond that. Not all of that $83,000, though, wound up as part of the capital campaign. I'll explain that in just a second. So you can see last year, $7,700 is what was budgeted in terms of what our need was on a weekly basis. We actually averaged $9,298, almost $9,300 per week as our average contribution in 2024. You can see, though, that our total cash flow for last year was actually $515,000. So, again, we met our budget. We had excess contributions, but in 2024, we also actually had $31,000, almost $32,000 of interest earnings. That was from previously accumulated capital campaign funds that had been set aside, very safe investment mechanism those are sitting in. Interestingly enough, we had been producing a rate of return on a fixed product, a stable value product that was producing a return greater than the cost of the money that we borrowed 4 years ago when we purchased 37 Legato Drive, where the cottage is and the 2.6 acres to the immediate south of us. And I'm going to talk about that again here in just a moment, but nonetheless, $515,000 of total cash flow last year. Now, I want to go back to the comment that I made there a minute ago when I said not necessarily all of that $83,000 wound up as part of the capital campaign. It is the green number that became part of the capital campaign, $64,000 and some loose change, because while our budgeted income last year was $400,400, we actually spent, as far as regular, recurring, ongoing expenses, $419,000. So there were some expenses, some of which actually would have been categorized as some capital campaign or significant building maintenance types things that would be almost earmarked as part of the capital campaign, but they came out of our normal operating expenses. The other two things that I want to acknowledge that took place in 2024. So if you look at the budget sheet, you're actually going to see that we spent $695,000. Now, I assure you I'm not up here playing the pea under the shell game with you with numbers, okay? We did spend $419,000 on our recurring ordinary type expenses, but we did also acquire, I was wrong a minute ago, I said 37, it was 71 Legato. 37 is the house next door. So we did purchase that property last year, $282,000. That was actually specifically came out of the capital campaign funds, if I could say it that way, to just make that acknowledgement that obviously we can't do some of the things that we need to do as far as the building, some of the modifications, the improvements that are being planned, unless we have room in which to do that. Now, as you recall, over the last couple of years, I guess going from about September, October 2020, coming forward to where we are now, about 4 years, we've made 2 real estate acquisitions to the immediate south of us. The first purchase, which was 2.68 acres of land, and that cottage that sits over there to the furthest south, we acquired that property in the fall of 2020. We do have still some debt associated with that property. The plan is to pay that off sometime here in the first part of the year. You'll see a slide about that here in just a second. The house purchase this past year, $282,000 of capital outlay. I want to make sure everybody understands, while you may not see footers being dug or flags out in the yard where things are going to go and so forth, there's been a lot going on over the last couple of years. We've made 2 real estate purchases that, I don't know if you realize this, and I hadn't thought of it until I started adding it up as I was preparing for this morning. Those 2 purchases were acquired at approximately $300,000 less than either what the initial asking price was or the appraised value on that real estate. $300,000 as opposed to what was being asked or what it had appraised for. So we could be sitting today on far fewer funds than where we are, but we were able to secure both of those properties. And I think, again, the folks that were involved in those negotiations and making that happen did an excellent job as far as putting us in a good spot. Oh, and let me back up real quick. I got to make the seal coating treatment. I didn't have that number when I put the slide together. That's why there's a bunch of dollar signs in there. It was $47,500. So, and when you look at the general maintenance category on our budget for last year, you're going to see a really large number. That's why that number is inflated compared to past years. 2025, Here's sort of the bottom line. We're actually holding the line in terms of what that budget amount is. It's going to be $400,400 of needed contributions. Again, $7,700 per week. Anything beyond that, which we would reasonably anticipate that to continue to occur, will be earmarked to that capital campaign. But notice the note that I put at the bottom of that slide. Remember, the capital campaign funds are fluid. We add funds, we spend funds. In fact, soon you're about to notice that the house to the immediate south of us is going to disappear. I don't know if you've noticed, there's actually a box trailer sitting on the other side of that structure right now. It has a number of things inside of there that the team that is going to be doing the demolition on that property, that they're able to salvage out of there that have some kind of residual value. Because of the fact that we found somebody who was interested in those logs, we're going to be able to remove that property for far less than what a normal demolition would cost, because of the fact that we have something of value that they seek to obtain out of that. So again, I think we were able to successfully work a really good mutual agreement there in getting them to, if you want those logs, you got to remove the rest of the structure. You can have the logs, but you just got to get everything else unattached from the logs and make the rest of it disappear. All right, so what's next? Here's what's going to be happening very soon. Demolition next door, again, that property. I think I'm safe if I said 6 months from now, that will be gone, and there will be, a little bit of grading to repair, where that structure had been. As I mentioned, in early this year, January, February, I guess it is, we're going to be paying off the note for 71 Legato Drive. That balance right now is about $234,000. The reason for that is we are reaching the end later this year of the first rate guarantee that we had on that note. The interest rates are now, the Federal Reserve's been pushing interest rates down. The return we're getting on our capital campaign deposited funds are beginning, that return is beginning to fade. Soon the cost of borrowed money is going to exceed the cost of those invested dollars, if I could say it that way. And it makes no sense to pay the bank interest if we can't produce a return better than that. So we are going to pay that note off. And then you're going to notice that there's going to be some engineering site work and some additional parking that's going to be added. If everybody, I don't encourage you to do this, if everybody got up and walked out and you look to the south of us, you're going to notice that our lawn right now has more than grass in it. There's a lot of vehicles in our lawn. And we've been very fortunate that we haven't had rainy season for some time where it becomes a mud bog out there. But soon, some of the what is currently our lawn will be turned into a parking space. Initially, that parking lot is probably going to be gravel because there's a fair amount of engineering, stormwater management. There's going to be some site work. It's Berkeley County, West Virginia. There's a lot of limestone that you have to deal with. And so we do have the funds already for that work so that we at least can get vehicles out of the yard. But you're going to notice that is starting to take place soon. I also wanted to make just a quick comment this morning about what if we started building right now. This slide was actually in my presentation last year. I just want to remind everybody of this. If we started adding, and let's say we could make the modifications, the improvements, the additions that we needed to for $2.5 million at a 6% approximate carrying cost amortized over a 20-year window of time. Remember, for those of you sitting there saying, well, but my home mortgage is amortized over a 30-year window, this is a commercial note. It's not a home mortgage. 20 years is the maximum that you can amortize. And if we did that, that would make our monthly debt service about $18,000 a month. While we've done a really good job on a week-to-week basis, we run above the $7,700 per week. We would actually have to add more than 50%. We'd have to add about 60% of what our current budget is just to be able to do debt service. So we're going to continue to move ahead. We're going to move forward on the things that we have planned. And while this is where we're headed, There's still a lot of work to do, which is why Bob's comments this morning about, inviting your friends and, growth and such is a vital component, because there's a lot of work yet to do ahead. So what can we do right now? First of all, obviously pray for our future and the opportunities ahead. Secondly, continue the strong financial support that this congregation does enjoy. Give careful consideration to unusual or extraordinary events that happen from a financial point of view from time to time. So whether it's some kind of a bonus or an inheritance, or if you're involved in a settlement or a buyout, or you sell a business or an asset that had value, something of those along those lines. If you have sort of, we refer to it in the professional career as found money. If you have found money, give some consideration to what can you do to help the congregation here in Martinsburg. And then the last bullet point that I've got is, if you're over the age of 70 and a half, you need to make sure that you understand qualified charitable distributions. QCDs is something the Internal Revenue Service put into the tax code a number of years ago. It is without question the most efficient way to give financial support to a qualifying 501c3 organization. Central Church of Christ in Martinsburg, West Virginia we have a letter of determination from the IRS. We are a qualifying 501c3 organization. If you are over the age of 70 and a half, you've got money in a retirement account that you had accumulated for over the years, and the IRS is now mandating and telling you you've got to do these required distributions. A QCD allows you to pull money out of that, out of an IRA. You can fulfill part of your required minimum distribution, but more importantly, that is a non-taxed event to you. It is a non-taxed event to the church that is receiving those funds, because of that tax-free status that this congregation has been able to secure and maintain over the years. That's all I've got. If you have questions, ask one of the elders. Feel free to ask me. Any of us are certainly happy to explain anything. We do appreciate the continued support. This congregation is in a great financial footing, and the future does look bright. Thank you.
Thank you, John. I want to thank, first of all, John for this presentation and for all of the work that he does as our deacon of finance. John has a career in that field, and if you think that you love your work and you want to find somebody who loves their work even more, just talk to the gentleman who was just here. John loves his work, you can tell, and he understands the terminology and the facts and the figures, and we just appreciate his experience and expertise in helping us in that regard. We appreciate all of our deacons and the work that they do, and it's so important in the work here with the church going forward. 2025 has the potential of being a truly remarkable and successful year in the work of the church here. The Lord is standing ready to bless us. It's going to depend upon us. It's going to depend on how faithful, how dedicated, how involved we want to be. There may be those in the auditorium this morning who are not yet members of the Lord's church. I mean, you have not obeyed the gospel as it's laid out in the New Testament. That slide that I showed you with the scriptures on it is a good summary of what one must do in order to become a Christian, to become a New Testament Christian, not a denominational participant, but a member of the Lord's church. If you have not done those things this morning, why not resolve to begin this new year in Christ, going forward as a child of God, a faithful and dedicated Christian, and a working part of this local congregation. We'd love to have you. We need you. We encourage you to be faithful to your Lord and to do what He bids you to do. If you're subject to that great invitation,